there are two species of tilefish that we target here in South Florida off of our coast. And understand, everything that I'm going to be talking about is relevant to right here, the South Atlantic, right off of our coast, outside anywhere from Port Everglades, Hillsborough Inlet, Boca Inlet, etc. There's obviously a tile fishery in the Gulf of Mexico as well. That's a completely different animal, different depths, different type of bottom. That's not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about fishing right out here. Who fishes here locally in Miami-Dade, Palm Beach? Obviously, almost all of us. Perfect. Okay. Tilefish are a really, really awesome species. They're very challenging. They really are. It didn't used to be like that. I can tell you over 20 years ago when I started to fish for blue line tilefish, the smaller of the two species, we used to go out here and I'll tell you it was almost impossible not to catch 50 in a day. All right, we'd just bring up stringers, 2, 3, 4, 5 at a time. Okay, it was absolutely insane. That fishery is not like that any longer. Okay, it's not like that any longer. I can't say that it's due to commercial fishing pressure because there is not a lot, if any, commercial fishing pressure on the gray tilefish. On the golden tilefish there is, but not on the gray tilefish. Maybe it's cycles, I can't tell you, but I can tell you that the fishery has gotten more and more challenging season after season. And now you really need to be dialed in and really, your skills need to be right at the top of the game in order to be successful. But you can be. You can be. There's still a lot of fish out here. The gray tilefish, they live right on the bottom. They will not swim more than 3 feet off the bottom. I know this firsthand because we've dropped the camera down to the bottom. And we have filmed these things, and they're like little rats. They run around the bottom. Okay, they'll chase the little baits, but they will not come more than 3 feet off the bottom. So if you have a high bait that's 6 feet off the bottom, guess what you're going to catch? Nothing. Okay, absolutely nothing. So remember that they hug the bottom. They feel that security. They feel that bottom underneath them, and they don't go very far away from it. The gray tilefish average in size from 1 to 8 pounds. If you catch any fish over 5 pounds in our area, that's a very big one. Okay, it's a real big one. However, lately I'm going to tell you that we've caught some really nice ones between that 5 and 8 pound range. So there are some big fish out here, but a lot of them are on the smaller side from 1 to 3 pounds. It's not a giant fish. It's not going to break any world records. It's not going to bust your arms off fighting this thing. It's not going to peel 100 yards a line of drag. That's not what gray tilefish is about. However, if you're looking for a scrappy fighter, if you're looking for a fish to put some meat in the box, something that tastes really, really good, and that's really challenging to catch, a gray tilefish is a good target. Now understand, first and foremost, the regulations. By show of hands, how many gray tilefish are you allowed to keep? Somebody tell me. Go ahead. He says 3. He says 100 pounds. Let's stop for a second. One guy says I'm allowed to keep 3. One guy says I'm allowed to keep 100 pounds. Let me explain exactly why they're both saying that. If you are fishing state waters out to 3 miles, okay, up to 3 miles off the beach, you are allowed to keep up to 100 pounds of gray tilefish. Okay, think about that, 100 pounds. For a fish that averages 1 to 8 pounds, usually 2 to 4 pounds, that's a lot of tilefish, right? You're not going to catch that many. You're not going to limit out in one day. Okay, I'm telling you that right now. If you do, well, you won't, period. Okay, not today. However, as soon as you break that 3-mile line, that 3-mile barrier, you are now in federal waters. And in federal waters, gray tilefish are managed by the South Atlantic Fisheries Management Council. Okay, and they manage all of our fisheries in federal waters, which range from 3 miles off the beach to 200 miles off the beach. In federal waters, you are allowed to keep 3. So up to 100 pounds, up to 3 miles, and as soon as you cross that 3-mile line, 3. So keep that in mind. Also keep in mind the open and closed seasons. Again, by show of hands, is gray tilefish open in state waters right now? Anybody know? The answer is yes. They are open in state waters up to 3 miles. Are they open in federal waters? The answer is no. Gray tilefish are only open in federal waters May, June, July, and August. So you have 4 months to target these fish in federal waters 3 miles or more off the beach. So what does that mean? Because keep in mind, this is not a type of fish that you release because they bloat, they float. By the time they get to the top, they're dead. Okay, that's the bottom line. They're not going to live. Very, very few will live once you bring them up from that depth of water. So if you're targeting these fish to harvest them, this time of the year, you're going to fish state waters, right? And then during that 4-month open period, forget the state waters, that's when you're going to fish deeper, also where you're going to find the larger gray tilefish. So it's important to remember that. Where are you going to find the gray tilefish? We know that they hug the bottom. It is a species that prefers mud. And understand that throughout this seminar, we're going to spend the first half talking all about gray tilefish, and then we're going to transition and talk about golden tilefish, okay? So we know it's a species, the gray tilefish, also known as blue line tilefish. They hug the bottom and they prefer mud. They feed on shrimp, squid, lobsters, crabs, any sort of crustaceans, eels, small bait fishes, but they prefer a muddy terrain, a muddy bottom. So if I wanted to find the fish, certainly I'm going to look for flat, muddy bottom. I'm not going to look for any sort of rock or structure or ledges or wrecks, typical areas that will hold grouper and other sorts of snappers. That's not going to hold the gray tilefish. They like the mud. They burrow into the mud. They make these cone-shaped burrows. Okay? And I want you to kind of picture a cone-shaped burrow. Don't think of a teepee sitting on top. Think of a teepee drilled into the bottom. That's what I mean by a burrow. And they go into it head first. They only feed during the day. They will not feed at night. They will not leave their burrow. They're very protective, okay? Especially the goldens. We'll talk more about that. But even the gray tilefish are protective of their burrows. They never leave them at night, and they do not stray far from their burrow. Why? Because, well, just imagine this. You own a home. It's your home, okay? You leave all the doors and the windows wide open, and you live in a bad neighborhood. And you stroll too far away from your home, some hooligans may move into your house, right? And take over your house. And you're out of luck. So in turn, it's pretty much the same thing in that fishy world down there. So they don't stroll too far away from their burrows. That means that they're not going to chase a bait very far. They're not going to chase a bait for 100 feet or 100 yards before making a decision to eat it or not eat it. They're going to make a split decision, and that's going to play a big role in the conditions that you're looking for. So we know that they like muddy bottom. Ideal depths are going to be 350 to 600 feet. In state waters, we generally, up to 3 miles off the beach, we can hit about 425 to 450 feet of water. Beyond 450, you're more than 3 miles off the beach and you're now in federal waters, which we know we cannot fish for gray tiles in federal waters right now. Right? Everybody with me? Okay. So the entire avenue, so to speak, between 350 and 450, up and down our entire coast, is prime gray tilefish habitat. Okay? Some areas more so than others. Years ago, we used to have fantastic fishing off of Deerfield. Fantastic fishing. In 400 to 420 feet of water, you could not catch them. You were an idiot if you weren't catching gray tilefish on the bottom. Okay? I'm telling you, it was that good. It's not that good any longer. And they tend to have moved. I find now that sometimes you'll find them off Fort Lauderdale, sometimes you'll find them south of Hillsborough Inlet. I don't really look for them up off of North Boca or up north of Boca, so I can't tell you how good that fishery is. But you got to put in your time and you have to look for them. Also, I'm going to tell you that pollution, while I hate to say this to you, pollution plays a big role in our fisheries, and it's not getting any better. Remember when I told you earlier in the seminar that we dropped down a camera to the bottom and we were watching the tilefish feeding? And what I mean by that is we dropped down a camera right above a deep drop rig. It was dragging across the bottom, and we watch all the tilefish come out and chase the baits. Okay, like I said, like little rats, chasing it, coming up, nipping at it, swimming away, and we did this multiple times. And it was amazing, the footage that we saw. And that camera housing had a really powerful LED light. And you know what else we saw down there? It was absolutely disgusting. Discarded bottles, cans, tires, okay, stuff that you would not imagine being on the bottom out here in 400 feet is on the bottom out here in 400 feet. So I don't know if pollution is playing a role in what's going on. So, you know, as a general rule, you're flagged. As a general rule, make sure that, of course, you don't pollute, you know, eliminate or certainly use as little plastic as possible because it's affecting our area tremendously, you know, so just keep that in mind. Anyhow, you've got to look for these gray tilefish. We know close to the bottom, we know mud, okay? We know what they like to feed on. Let's talk about conditions. Year-round, you can catch them. We've had excellent tile fishing in January and in July. Okay, so any day of the year, you can go target these fish. They pretty much live here. Okay, they pretty much live here. Certainly they'll migrate, they'll come and go, and you'll tend to see some bigger fish at certain times of the year or more or less fish, but any day of the year. What I have found that successful tile fishing here is not about what time of the year it is, it's about the conditions. If you have the right conditions, you can catch them. If you have bad conditions, you're not going to catch them. And unfortunately, you don't know what those conditions are going to be until you get out there, right? Because every day is different. You can look at the forecast for tomorrow. It says southeast 10 to 15, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, there's not going to be a lot of current. This is going to be easy peasy. You go out there, you drop a bait to the bottom, and you're drifting across the bottom at 4 knots, okay? And you can't even get your lead anywhere near the bottom. Well, you're not going to catch that gray tilefish if you're drifting at 4 knots. Why? Because remember what I said earlier, he's not going to chase the bait. Okay, it's going to go right by him real fast, and he's going to have a split second to make a decision to grab that bait. And oftentimes, they don't do that. They don't do that. They inspect the bait. I've watched as much underwater footage as I possibly could of not only the gray tilefish, but also golden tilefish. These are not stupid fish. They don't get big by being dumb. Okay, they inspect the bait, they'll smell it, they'll look at it, they'll watch it before they commit and eat it. So if you're not getting bites, don't think the fish aren't there. They're just not committing. Sometimes they're not there, but sometimes they are there and they're just not committing, okay? So remember that if you're drifting really, really fast, you're not going to catch them. What I do, I'm prepared for a variety of different conditions. I don't know what those conditions are going to be until I'm there. I cannot predict the speed of the current. Okay, I wish I could. Can anybody predict the speed of the current? Okay, if you can, let me know how you're doing it. Okay, and just when you think it's going to be slow, it's fast. And just when you think it's going to be fast, maybe a full moon, downside of the moon, it ends up being fishable. Ideally speaking, anywhere from 0.8 to 1.5 is ideal gray, and I'm talking about speed, anywhere from about 3/4 of a knot to 1.5 knots is ideal conditions for gray tile fishing. You want to be moving. You can't just sit in one spot and drop your bait right to the bottom, because unless there's a fish straight down there, the other ones are not going to come over. They're not going to swim over to your bait because they're not going to leave their burrows. You understand how all of these pieces to the puzzle are coming together here, little bit by little? Okay, so you have to keep moving. You have to keep drifting across that ground in order to come across as many fish as possible. But you can't drift too fast because they won't go too far away from their burrows and you won't be able to catch them. Oftentimes, we know that here, right out front, 95% of the time, what direction is the current moving in? North. Okay, 95% of the time we're drifting north. I'd almost say 100% of the time, but 95% of the time, especially out there, because remember, we're not fishing right on the edge. We're fishing out in deeper water, 350, 400, 450. Forget the goldens. We'll talk about that later. But even the blue line tiles, we're fishing right on that edge where you have the Gulf Stream is the edge, you know, the western edge of the Gulf Stream is right there. We're drifting north. It's just how fast are we drifting north. Oftentimes when we have a northerly wind, we're drifting north this way, that's north, and the wind is pushing us this way. Do we have good conditions? Yes, because it's slowing us down. Okay, so oftentimes when that wind is from the northwest, the north, or the northeast, that could present some really good gray tilefish conditions because you're still moving, but it's slowing you down a little bit. Okay, so keep that in mind. Also understand if you get out there, you stop the boat, you drop a bait to the bottom and you're drifting at 4 knots, reel it up and go fish for something else. Stop wasting your time. I'm telling you right now, stop wasting your time. You're lucky you may catch one, okay, because even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then, okay? However, there's better fisheries under those circumstances. So again, I'm always prepared for those gray tiles depending on the conditions. The very first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and get away with as little lead as I possibly can. And I wanna keep the fishery as sporty as possible. You know, back in the day, everybody that was deep dropping, you know, when I say back in the day, I'm gonna say 15 years ago or so, we're all using these really big electric reels, right? Like the crystals and these electromates and these like tow trucks on these big beefy rods. Who knows what I'm talking about? Okay, you guys know what I'm talking about. These big beefy rods with really like, they're mounted, the reels are mounted on pool cue type of rods, really heavy stuff. That's what guys were deep dropping with. But of course, the fishery has advanced tremendously over the years. Everything now is getting lighter, smaller, and more sensitive. And it has to because there's so much more pressure on the fish that we're targeting. This isn't the Galapagos, okay? You want to catch fish, go to the Galapagos. Right now, they're catching 50 striped marlin a day, okay? We're not in the Galapagos. We're in South Florida. And like I say in every one of my seminars, go out here on a Saturday. How many boats are on the edge, okay? I see you guys are like, poof, forget that. Forget that is right. That's why you got to learn how to deep drop, because when everybody's on the edge on a Saturday and there's too much traffic, too much boat traffic, is a great time to go out there and deep drop for the tilefish, right? Okay, it's also a great plan B in the event that you don't catch any of those pelagics, dolphin, blackfins, king mackerel, sailfish, whatever. You don't want to come home empty-handed. Who's ever come home empty-handed from a fishing trip? Only half the people raised their hand. That's the funniest thing I've ever seen. Who's ever come home empty-handed from a fishing trip? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we all have, right? Yeah, see, he's going like this. Okay. And he's got his leg up too now. So keep this in mind. It's a great backup plan in order to put a few fish in the boat to have a nice fresh fish dinner. And I stress fresh because gray tilefish are not a species that freeze well. The meat is really soft and tender, and it's not a fish that freezes well. You certainly can freeze it, but you're much better off eating it fresh. Okay, keep that in mind. So, like I said, you know, the heavy gear is gone. We're now using lighter, more sensitive equipment, and I want it to be as sporty as possible because, again, these fish are not incredible fighters. So the very first thing that I try is I have an 8-foot rod rated for 20 to 40 pound line. Okay. It's a graphite rod. It is incredibly light, incredibly light. It's matched to a Daiwa Saltiga size 35 conventional reel, loaded with 30-pound diamond braid. Okay, it is super, super light. This is the first thing that I go to when I go out here gray tile fishing. It has a very simple, clean rig. Okay, not a lot of junk, not a lot of hardware. You know what I'm saying? It's just very clean. And you can see there's just a big lead right on the bottom, 20 ounces. This is the rod that I will use up to 20 ounces of lead. It has a 2-hook rig, a high-low rig. That's what we call this. The top hook is no more than a couple of feet off the bottom, maybe 30 inches off the bottom. I don't need a 5-hook rig. Do you think I want to reel up from 450 feet with 5 hooks loaded with bait? Okay, 25 times during the day? No, and I'm not trying to catch 5 fish at one time. Who's trying to catch 5 fish at one time? You're the only guy. Why are you trying to catch 5 fish at one time? You know what? First catch 1 fish at one time and then talk to me. Okay, don't be greedy. 1 at a time. And the reason you fish 2 baits is in case you lose a bait, you don't have to reel your rig all the way back up to the top. Okay, and oftentimes you'll catch 2 as well. You'll get double headers when you go over them. But the rig is very clean and streamlined and simple. It's tied on 80-pound line, diamond presentation fluorocarbon. So the trunk line, the main trunk right here is 80 pound. It has loop knots. There's no swivels, there's no crimps, it's super streamlined, okay? Now that's important, not only for reeling it up, but for the minimal drag in the water. Because remember, the heavier the rig, the more hardware, the more crap you have on your rig, the more water it's gonna catch, the more lead you're gonna need, the less sensitive the rig is gonna be, the harder it's gonna be to reel up, the less fish you're gonna catch. Everybody follow me? Yes, so this is the first rod that you're gonna be using. It is a fast reel, 6.4 to 1. Why is that important? It's deep. How long you want to be sitting there going like this? This is no fishery for, don't be fishing a Penn Senator 4.0, okay? Don't do it. That's not what this is for, okay? Fish a reel that's at least 6.4 to 1, okay? Something that's fast. Even if it's a little bit faster, there's hyper speed reels that are 7 to 1, okay? The quicker you can get that thing up, the better. But you also need torque because you've got a lot of line out there. Nevertheless, very simple, clean rig. No light, no anything. I'm trying to be as stealthy as I can possibly be at first. The hook, very, very important. VMC circle hook, a tournament inline circle hook, size 4.0. Listen to what I am saying to you. I am not telling you a range of hooks. I'm telling you what hook to use. It is a VMC tournament inline circle hook, size 4.0, okay? It is the correct hook for the gray tilefish. It is a very thin wire hook. That's very important. It's a thin wire hook. It grabs them in the corner of the mouth 99% of the time, every time, okay? And it penetrates very quickly, very quickly. A lot of the deep drop rigs, like that, look how thick gauge that wire is. If you drop this rig down for gray tilefish, you want me to tell you how many gray tilefish you're going to catch? None. Okay, that's just not the right rig. You've got to go stealthy. Like I said, 20 ounces of lead. And because everything is so light and so thin, especially that braid is incredibly thin, it catches minimal resistance, and you often can fish with this up to 450 feet all day long, very sporty, right under your arm. It's got a soft tip because look at that tip. Everybody see that tip? This is what a tilefish bite's gonna look like. Just like that. It's not gonna go like this, okay? It's a 2-pound fish that's 450 feet away. You're gonna see this. It's just gonna tap like that, and you wanna be able to feel it. Now, as soon as I feel that tap, you know the first thing I do? Free spool. Thank you. I go immediately into free spool because remember what I said, that fish came out of its burrow or he's just cruising close to its burrow on the bottom. I'm dragging my rig across the bottom. It sees the bait. It's coming out to the bait. It's committing. It's hitting the bait. But gray tilefish do not have a giant mouth. They have a small mouth. It's not like a golden tilefish. Golden tilefish can suck up a watermelon. Okay, that's not what a gray tilefish can do. So in turn, you've got to give them a chance to eat it. Also, I don't like to fish super large baits, strips. Either a strip of squid or half of a squid or a small whole squid, like the little 3- and 4-inch squid, but not one of these Mama Jama 6 to 8 or even a medium 6 to 8 or a 10, 12-inch big squid. No, the fish is barely 12 inches. Okay? You've got to downsize everything. And remember, you'll still catch the bigger ones because elephants eat peanuts. Okay, elephants eat peanuts. And there's not a lot of food down there. And ironically, I'm going to tell you, in 20-something years of catching gray tilefish, I don't want to say hundreds, I'm literally going to say thousands of gray tilefish. I fillet every single fish and I gut every single fish and I inspect the stomach contents of every fish that I catch, no matter what it is. I just have a habit of doing it. It's gross, but it's super cool, okay? And the stuff that I see inside there is just amazing. I love it. You want to know what I see inside the belly of gray tilefish? Yeah. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. 1 out of every 100 will have something digesting in their belly. The other 99%, and it's probably 99.5%, are empty. And I say to myself, how could that be? How could that be? Okay, so I come to realize that number one, there's not a lot of food down there. which is why they grow very slowly. It's a slow-growing fish. They don't have an abundance of prey down there, especially because they're not aggressive. I mean, they're aggressive, but it's not like a pelagic, like a dolphin. That, for love of God, a dolphin will eat its own mother. Well, its own mother will eat its kid, right? We know that. So, in turn, they grow very slow. The gray tilefish will live to 15 years, approximately. A 6-7 pounder is over 10 years old. So it takes them a long time to reach that age, and they don't eat a lot, and they must digest it. You know, I'm going to use a comparison of like a snake. Snakes don't eat a lot, right? I don't know a lot about snakes, but I know they don't eat a lot. I know when they eat big, but then they like digest it over a long period of time, and they don't eat a lot. And I don't know if that's a good example, but again, you never see their stomachs filled with food. It's really, really strange, really strange. So I let the fish eat the bait. When you see that bite, go into free spool and just feed out some line. Don't pull it away from him. Give it a good count, 10, 15, whatever. If he's eating it, he's not leaving. He's not going to leave, okay? Let him eat it. And then come tight on the reel. Remember, you have circle hooks. This isn't Bill Dance Saturday morning setting up on the rod like he does on the big old bass, okay? That's not what this is about, okay? This is about circle hooks, catching the fish right in the corner of the mouth. Just come tight, put your thumb right on the line, and just hold the rod. And slowly lift it up off the bottom. Lift that sinker up off the bottom. You are going to know at that moment if you have a tilefish on the end of your line. At that very moment, you're going to know. Okay? If you don't, keep fishing, keep drifting. You have 2 hooks. You very likely just missed that fish. You certainly could get another bite. Okay? When you do hook the fish, remember where you are. Remember exactly what depth you were in. Remember where you were fishing. You know, someone said to me earlier in the seminar, you're going to give us some numbers. I'm going to do better. I was out there the other day and I left a big red X right out there. Okay, big red X. So just go out there, find that red X, and just fish right there on that red X, and you're going to catch the tilefish right there. Okay, it's right on the bottom. So. Yeah. So again, keep at it. And also remember, the brighter it is, the better they bite. I have found that if it's cloudy and overcast, they don't bite anywhere near as well as if it's bright blue skies and sunny. Even though they're very deep, you may say to yourself, well, how does that fish know? Because at 400 feet, there's still light that penetrates down there. Light will penetrate much, much further than that. So they know if it's daytime or nighttime, they know if it's cloudy or sunny, and they just tend to be much more active when it's brighter, okay? Bycatch, what else are you going to catch down there? Not very much. You're going to catch what we call bank sea bass. It's a small brown fish that looks, I don't want to say looks, it is a sea bass, and it's called a bank sea bass. You will catch some of those. You're going to catch some what we call sea snakes, which is not a snake at all. It is a beige-colored eel with white spots on the side. The tilefish eat those, but do not fish it for bait because it's going to wrap all around your rig and it's going to destroy your rig. Okay, and they're an absolute nuisance, but you will catch those. Every now and then, you'll catch a random snowy grouper. I've caught bluefish on the bottom. I've caught jacks on the bottom. But for the most part, it's going to be the tilefish, okay, when you are fishing bait. Other than squid, bonita strips, any fresh anything is a good choice, but nothing beats the squid because they just suck it up. Okay, it's a soft bait, they have soft lips, it's a natural prey, you know, and that's what I would recommend. Understand though, not all squid is created equal. Be very careful where you purchase your squid and what squid you purchase. Open the box, look at it. If it's all gnarly and freeze-dried and it looks like dried leather, is that going to be a good bait? No. Okay, if it's nice and fresh and clean, and it doesn't have to be fresh, it could be frozen obviously, like all of the squid that we use, but make sure it's clean and nice. Now keep in mind, if there's too much current, and I cannot fish with 20 ounces of lead. Maybe it's too windy, maybe there's just too much current, and I've got to bump up my outfit to the next step up. What I'm going to do is go to the exact same rod. It's the same rod, but now I have it matched to a Daiwa Tanacom 750. It is a power assist reel. Okay, it's a Daiwa power assist reel. There's a little plug right on the bottom here where a power cord comes off the reel and it plugs in right on the boat. And it also has a handle. Keep in mind it's slow as dirt. So don't think you're going to be using this handle. It's just there for emergencies. It's a power assist reel, variable speed. It's got a little lever right here. When I push this lever up, the reel turns. The more that I push it up, the faster the reel turns. The reel is automatic, so it has an auto stop. When it gets to the top, it stops automatically. I load it with the same 30-pound braid. I'm not going to heavier line. Okay, all I'm doing is, because I'm now fishing a heavier lead, and keep in mind, this is just an example. Okay, it's just what I'm holding up here. But up to 20 ounces on this rod. If I need to go to 3 pounds, I use this rod, because I am not cranking 3 pounds of lead all the way up from 450 feet 25 times. Anybody ever do that? Okay, not a single person, one guy. One guy. I've done that. Okay. So in turn, I go to a power assist reel with a heavier lead. Now you can see that I also beef up my rig a little bit, because I no longer need to crank it by hand, so it doesn't have to be as streamlined. So I now go to a 3-hook rig. Okay, I also put a light up on the top. I'm just going to reel this up a little higher so everyone can see it. But you can see that all of those hooks are very close to the bottom. Everybody see that there? They're all very, very close to the bottom. One of them is dragging right across the bottom. Guess which hook you're going to catch most of your tilefish on? This one right here. But even the top one is only a couple feet off the bottom. I still don't need a 5-hook rig in this scenario. There's no purpose for it. I'm fishing the same hook. I've beefed up my leader. I've gone to 100-pound leader. I use swivel sleeves, which you can see right there. These little swivel sleeves, which I'm sure they carry here. And also you will notice that on my rig, I have a swivel on the lead. I also have a swivel up on the top by the light. So everybody see that little strobe right there? There's a snap swivel on the end of my leader. And on the top of the rig is a barrel swivel. And on the sinker is a swivel. So you may be saying, why so many swivels, Mike? Well, let me tell you why so many swivels. Because if you don't have these swivels, what happens to your rig? Okay, it just twists up, twists up, twists up, twists up, and it gets destroyed. Okay, and I don't want to be dealing with rigs all day long. I want to have a nice, clean rig. So the more swivels, the better. Why? Because this sinker spins like a top going down and coming up. So if you don't have swivels there, it completely destroys your rig. It literally just spins, spins, spins at a super high rate, going all the way to the bottom and all the way back up. So you've got to have some swivels. The light, as far as the color, and keep in mind that this is a strobe that's water activated. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, but nevertheless, it's water activated. There you go. And this one happens to be green. They also make them in red, in blue, in purple, in white, in a variety of colors. If you only had to pick 2 colors, I would pick green, and my second color would be green. Okay? It seems to be a really natural color underwater. So if you only had to pick one, like I said, it would be green. Same thing, just beefed up a little bit more. Power assist, same 30-pound with a top shot, a 50-pound leader. When I say a top shot, 20 feet. 20 feet, a 50-pound test on top of the braid. Okay, it's the same. There's some mono on there as well. You need a little bit of shock absorbing factor, because braid has no stretch whatsoever. And as you're bringing fish up, especially if it's rough and the rod is bouncing up and down and you have a 3-pound lead on the bottom, and the fish, if you have 1 or 2 fish going in different directions, you often can pull hooks. So having 20 feet of mono on top of the braid is going to be a big benefit and allow you to stay connected to as many fish as possible. Everybody follow me there? Okay. If I have to go above this to more than 3 pounds of lead because there's 2+ knots of current, guess what I'm doing? Well, I don't know if I'm going home, but I'm not going tile fishing any longer. That I can tell you. Okay. So that concludes our gray tile fish portion of this seminar. Before I move on to the golden tilefish, does anybody have any questions and doesn't understand every detail of gray tile fishing? Yes?
Your length and your branches.
So his question is the length of the branches on the rig. Now understand, you can see that my branches are approximately 12, 16 inches. Okay, a lot of people say you don't want them that long because you don't want it to tangle on the way down. You know what I have found? That when this rig goes to the bottom, both of these are like this. And when this rig comes back up to the top, both of them are like this. You guys follow me? Okay, so I haven't found that the longer leaders by any means get tangled with each other. And I like to keep it natural. I want that bait to flow naturally and to look as natural as possible. Remember, these fish are not stupid. The small ones that are a pound, 2 pounds are dumb as dirt. Okay, because they're just not smart enough yet to know. They're very aggressive, they're competitive. The larger ones, over 5 pounds, have been around the block. And they really, like I said, they inspect that bait, they look at it, they sniff it, they watch it before they commit. So I want it to be as natural as possible. Yes?
As far as like the depths and stuff like that, does that apply also to like a North Key Largo area?
I don't fish off North Key Largo, so I don't want to tell you if that 350 to 450 is the right depth there. What I will tell you is 350 to 450 is the ideal depth for gray tilefish. If there's mud in those areas, that's absolutely where I would fish. Okay, absolutely. Okay, let's move on to golden tilefish. Okay, who wants to catch one of these? Okay, take a picture of me. Right? How's that right there? Look good? Who's caught one of these? Okay, this size? Okay, this is a replica of a golden tilefish that we caught right out front here. Okay, last year while filming a show, we wrecked them, and one of them was a mama jama, just like this one right here. Okay, there are big golden tilefish right out here. They're not all this big, but there are certainly fish this size and even larger. This is not your ordinary tilefish. This is a very, very smart fish. It lives in an incredibly hostile environment, right on the bottom from 700 to 1,000 feet of water. You can catch them shallower and you can catch them deeper. But if you had to pick one ideal depth, I'm going to tell you it's going to be 800 to 1,000 feet. It's going to be the ideal depth to find this guy. Okay, this guy and his brothers. The reason I say this guy and his brothers is because unlike most fish, where the largest specimens are females, not with golden tilefish. The largest specimens are males. So big ones like this are all males, and the females are smaller. Don't ask me why. That's the way God decided to have it. So again, a lot of bigger fish down there. They live in a hostile environment. It's very cold on the bottom. Anybody have any idea what the water temperature is 800 feet down, right on the bottom? Somebody guess.
45. 14.
I've heard everything from 14 to 75. Okay? I'm going to tell you that if it was 14, it'd be frozen. And if it was 75, it's 800 feet down. How could it be 75? Work with me here a little bit. Okay? Keep in mind, approximately 800 feet down, that water temperature is 50 degrees. Okay? 50 degrees. So it's cold. It's not ice cold, but it's certainly cold. Is it pitch black? You bet your butt it is. It is pitch black. So now you are talking about a brilliant predator that lives right on the bottom. Right on the bottom, 800 to 1,000 feet down in really frigid waters in the pitch black that has to survive and thrive. Incredible. When I think about that, I think what an incredible predator. You know, dolphin are great, wahoo are awesome, king mackerel are beautiful, but they can't do that. Okay, they can't do that. That's something really, really special. So when I think about these fish, I think, man, they shouldn't be easy to catch. They shouldn't, and they're not easy to catch by any means. You know, they can be very frustrating. You can go out there and target these golden tilefish and never have a single bite all day long. Okay? On the other hand, you can go out there and every drop get bit. So, you know, you just don't know. And you know, the one thing I'm going to tell you too, one real quick, I don't want to use the word trick or tip, but something that's very important to mention. When we are blue line tile fishing, the gray tile fish, or when we fish for the golden tile fish, there's something we do that I'm not sure if you guys do or don't do, but I'm going to point out real quick. We always fish 2 or more rods, okay? We're never fishing 1 rod, never. Everything you see up here there's pairs of everything. So when we go out and we're deep dropping, we're always fishing 2 rods. So right out of the gate, if you're fishing 1 rod, I'm catching twice as many as you are. Am I right? Okay, but I'm increasing my odds. So the more baits, the more lines that you can get down there, of course, the more successful you're going to be. And remember, the trick to avoiding getting tangled when you're fishing 2 rods, don't drop them both at the same time and retrieve them both at the same time. Drop one, let it hit the bottom. Once it hits the bottom and you're fishing, now drop the second one. Also, make sure you fish identical rigs and identical weights. If this guy's fishing 4 pounds and this guy's fishing 2 pounds, forget it. You're going to get tangled because they're just not drifting identical. One's over here, one's over here, one's over here. Next thing you know, you got a big fat mess. And anybody want to deal with a big fat mess 800 feet down with 2 deep drop rods and 18 pounds of lead and 17 hooks? Okay, no, you don't want to do that. That could be the end of your trip. So keep it consistent with both rods. Just keep that in mind. So again, when I go out there golden tile fishing, I'm looking for how many fish. How many fish can I keep when I am fishing for golden tile fish? 1. How many fish can we keep on the boat? How many could there be on the entire boat if there's 5 anglers? 5. Okay, you are allowed 1 per person. Okay, they are counted within your 3 per day grouper aggregate. So you cannot have 3 grouper and 1 tile fish. You cannot have 1 tile fish and 5 grouper. You can have 2 grouper and 1 tile fish. You cannot have 2 tile fish and 1 grouper. Okay, 1 golden tile fish, and that counts within your 3 grouper aggregate. They are managed by the South Atlantic Fisheries Management Council in federal waters, beyond 3 miles. Are you going to catch golden tile fish in state waters? The answer is no. So who cares what the state regulations are, because you're not catching them in state waters. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They don't live within 3 miles of the coast and water any shallower than 400, 500 feet deep. I've never caught one shallower than 6 and change. Okay? And again, the primary depth is over 800 feet. You know, they probably live 1,400 feet. We just can't fish for them that deep because of all of the current out there. Okay? And of course, we deal with a lot of current, right, out here in the Gulf Stream. Nevertheless, we're allowed 1. Is golden tile fish season open? Yes. Okay, when does it close? It closes when the federal government says it does. Okay, that's when it closes. So we can't, it doesn't have a fixed season. It closes when the quota is caught. And the quota is considered not only recreational, but also commercial. And understand, you know, I don't know. Give me your opinion here. Recreationally, I can go out here and I'm allowed to keep 1 golden tile fish. If I am a commercial fisherman, do you know how many golden tile fish I'm allowed to keep in 1 day? 1,000 pounds. Is that fair? Is that fair? No, right? That's so unfair, okay? But that's the rules, okay? And recreationally, and the same, by the way, with gray tile fish. We're allowed, yes, we're allowed up to 100 pounds. I get that in state waters where they're all little rats and tiny. But in federal waters where we catch the bigger ones, okay, we're allowed 3. But yet the commercial fishermen are allowed, I think the number is 800 pounds. This is per trip. Okay, this isn't throughout the whole season. That's what they're allowed each trip. It's absolutely absurd, if you ask me. Nevertheless, so we're going out there and we are targeting 1 fish. Okay, 1 fish. There's times I'll go out there golden tile fishing by myself, looking for 1 fish. okay? And you know what, if I catch it, I really feel like I've accomplished something tremendous. The very first thing I need to do is find where are these fish going to be? Where are they likely going to be? And I'm going to tell you something magical happened to me last year. For over 20 years, I've been chasing golden tilefish. And I go out here and I've caught some. I'm not going to say I've caught thousands of them. I certainly haven't. But I've certainly caught what I like to say is my fair share. And I've gone way offshore, fished a variety of spots from, I don't know, 800, 900, 1,000, 675, just a whole variety of spots out there. And then last year, we were filming a show on golden tilefish, okay? And prior to the show, I decided to throw everything that I knew about golden tilefish out the window and start from scratch. And I spent a tremendous amount of time researching everything that I could to determine where are they most likely going to be. And I pinpointed a stretch of water that I have been driving over for 20 years, okay? Over it, past it, to go to all of these other areas. And I said to myself, no way. No way could it be that simple. So we went out to film a show, and we, of course, did the same thing that I've done 100 times before, 1,000 times before, and I drove right over that same spot. And didn't say anything to anybody, in the back of my head, constantly questioning myself on, was that the right move? And went offshore, dropped down to the bottom, targeting golden tilefish. You know how many we caught? 0, okay? So, Hail Mary, reel them up, we're making a move. My guy said, where are we going? I said, don't worry about it, okay? I don't even know. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed, my legs crossed, my arms crossed, and I'm hoping. And I start going back inshore. And they're questioning me, are we going home? And I'm like, nope, we're going to the promised land, okay? And long story short, and I love when things come together as expected, we wrecked them and really caught some beautiful fish, including one that's a replica of, okay? And just absolutely caught some trophy goldens. And all along, I've been driving over this spot. So I put a red X out there also, okay? So after you're done catching the gray tiles, you can go to the next red X and you can catch the goldens. And I'll tell you some characteristics about that red X before you get there. First of all, it is a very flat plateau. Flat plateau, okay? How do you find a flat area offshore? Somebody tell me. Charts, right? There are contour lines on charts. The closer that the lines are together, the steeper and that the drop-off is. The further that the lines are, the flatter that the terrain is. If that's not the best hint anybody can tell you, I don't know what else I can tell you. Rock or mud, how do you determine what the bottom structure is, what the bottom, the substrate is made out of? There are two ways. One is a lot of fancy fish finders, including my Furuno TZ Touch 2 system, tell you, you can determine what that bottom is, how hard it is, if it's rock, if it's gravel, if it's mud, but it's really hard to differentiate. And if you don't know what you're looking at across the bottom of that screen, because there's not a big word that says mud that pops up, okay? It's all about the colors and the echoes and the density. And if you don't understand how to read that really carefully, you might not be able to differentiate what that bottom structure is. However, there's another way. Charts. There are charts that reveal what that bottom substrate is. It'll say gravel, it'll say dirt, it'll say mud. So if I find mud and a flat plateau in 800 to 1,000 feet of water, is it likely that there's going to be golden tilefish there? Seminar's over, everybody go home. Okay? That's number one. Number two, understand that golden tilefish live in communities. Wherever you caught one, there are more. I promise you, there are more. They live in communities. They're not a solitary fish. They live alone sometimes, because ironically, a male and a female will often move in together in the same burrow. Isn't that so cute and romantic? Okay, I kid you not. They will often move in the same burrow, and that male will protect that female until another bigger, stronger, richer male comes along and steals her away, okay? But they live together in that burrow, and oftentimes Like I said, when you catch one, not often, but you'll catch more than one. And I know there are some people in this room who fish for golden tilefish who are really good at it, who know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? Because they'll catch one and they'll keep fishing and they'll catch more. So wherever you caught one, pay very, very close attention. Use that as an epicenter. Use that as City Hall, okay? And think that around City Hall, there are other properties. So they're spread apart. Again, burrows. They dig burrows in the bottom. There's footage of this. It's amazing. Okay, they dig burrows in the bottom and they live in their burrows, and oftentimes for many years in the same burrow. Okay, in the same burrow, that fish will live in that home for many years, and he'll keep expanding the hole as he gets bigger. Okay, and he'll expand his home as he gets bigger, until somebody catches him. And guess what happens when somebody catches him? Somebody moves into his house. Okay, that's exactly what happens. Yep, so in turn, there's a community of them spread apart. Imagine like potholes, craters over a big plateau. So where you catch one, you very likely will catch more. The thing is, you don't know where you caught that one. You could have been right at the epicenter of the neighborhood, right in the middle, or you could have been on the northern edge, or you could have been on the southern edge, or on the eastern edge of the neighborhood, or out in West End somewhere. Okay, so you have to experiment. You got to put in your time. This should not be easy. Catching fish like this should not be easy consistently. And it is not easy consistently, or else there would be absolutely none of these left. And if it was easy, there would be nobody in this room right now, other than me, talking to myself. Okay, it's hard. It's hard work. You got to put in the time and the effort. Also remember that while it's a brilliant, beautiful fish, it's very much like its smaller cousin, the gray tilefish. It will not roam too far away from its burrow because, like we know, somebody else will move in, okay? So it's not going to roam too far away from its burrow. So if you have a tremendous amount of current, you have a problem, okay? And now we know fishing out here in 800 to 1,000 feet, do we have current? Yes. Okay, yes, it's very rare that that current in that depth is any less than 2.5 to 3 knots. Okay, but it happens. It happens. And ironically, there are days, especially when that wind is from what direction? North. Anything from that northerly quadrant, northwest, north, northeast, it's pushing us against the current's pushing us north, but we end up with ideal conditions. And we can drift at 2 knots. 2 knots is okay, because we're fishing bigger tackle, heavier leads, bigger fish, they're more aggressive, they have a huge mouth, they don't nibble. A golden tilefish doesn't nibble, it inhales. Okay, it literally just inhales what it's going to eat. So they're much more aggressive, much stronger, and we can fish with more current. If you have more than 3 knots of current and you can't hold the bottom, forget it, because they too are not coming up off the bottom. They hug the bottom. Literally, they hug the bottom. Maybe a few feet, that's it. Also understand, lighter, more comfortable, more sensitive. Okay, I recently built an outfit specifically for golden tilefish. Okay, this is built specifically for golden tilefish. It is a 6.5 or 6.6 rod rated for 30 to 60 pound line. And look at that tip. It's got a really soft tip. And while it's not as soft as those tips, I can detect every single bite. Of course, it's a bent butt rod because I'm not fishing this under my arm, because I'm fishing usually 3 to 5 pounds of lead. Usually it's 4 or 5 pounds. That's what I'm going to fish out there for the golden tiles. I'm not fishing a 10-pound lead. Okay, I'm not daytime sword fishing in 1,700, 1,800 feet of water with a 10 or 12-pound lead with an LP. That's not what we're doing. We're fishing with lighter gear for golden tiles. Okay, so usually 4 or 5 pounds is plenty. If I have to fish with more than 5 pounds, not a good idea. Too much current, go fish for something else. My rod is matched to the latest in technology when it comes to power assist reels. This is the Daiwa Seaborg 800. Okay, Daiwa Seaborg 800. It's a 2-speed reel, so it's super fast but super powerful. If I need to haul a fish up off the bottom, a big fish, I can go into low gear and have that power. However, if I'm just checking my bait, do I want to move fast? You're damn right I do, because bringing that rig up from 800 feet takes quite a bit of time. And I want to go as fast as possible to either check my bait or to run back up for another drift. So I go into high speed by simply pushing a little button. Understand that this Daiwa Seaborg is their latest technology. Everybody familiar? I don't know if you're familiar, but Daiwa has an electric reel called the MP3000. Do you have one of those here somewhere by any chance? Can I see that? Can one of you guys bring up a Daiwa MP3000, please? This is the same motor in the Daiwa MP3000, and I'm about to show you. But when you see the difference in the size of the reel, you're going to flip out. Okay, so it's much lighter, much smaller, much easier to fish. I fish 40-pound PE line. There's about 15, oh, I don't want to say 15, probably 1,000 yards of line on here, maybe more. So I'm not concerned with line capacity because remember, even the biggest golden tilefish is not going to peel off 300 yards of line. This is not a yellowfin tuna. They tug, they fight, they twist, they turn, but it's an up and down tug-of-war battle. As long as I have enough line to hit the bottom, and in 800 feet, how much line do I need to hit the bottom? Okay. I'm going to need more than that because remember, I'm not going straight down. There's going to be a big bow of line. It's going to go down and there's going to be a big bow of line. But in 800 feet, if I have 1,200 feet of line, I should be perfectly fine. Okay, so I've got plenty of line capacity. I go as thin as I possibly can get away with, 40-pound diamond braid. And by going thin, again, it's much more sensitive. I can fish less weight, and I'm going to be much more effective, and it's going to be much sportier. Same gig, 3-hook rig, okay, but now we've gone up from a 100-pound leader to a 150-pound. It's a 150-pound diamond extra hard leader. It's a stiff extra hard leader material. 3-hook rig, look where that bottom hook is. Everybody see that? Right on the bottom. It's exactly the same rig as the gray tilefish rig, but on steroids. Okay, it's just beefed up. You'll also notice that I have a strobe light up on top, but I also have a secondary strobe right on the bottom on the lead. Okay, so there's 2 lights. Can you do me a favor? Can you hold that right there without killing me or anyone else? Hold on, hold on. Oh, God. Got it, oh my God. That, right there. That reel, and I mean, this thing probably weighs, I don't know how much, okay, 18 pounds or something ridiculous. So this same motor that's in this reel right here, this workhorse of a reel, they put in this, right here. And in turn, it just makes it much faster, much more comfortable, okay, and it's all in the motherboard. Okay, the speed, it's all in the motherboard. Another advantage to this Seaborg, and I'm not selling you on this reel, I'm simply selling you on the point of having an effective reel, how it could benefit you. The retrieval ratio is also much, much faster than the Daiwa Tanacom. Okay, this is 2.9. It's almost 3 to 1. That's pretty fast. So if something happens for whatever reason, you cut your cord, you lose battery power, I don't know, and you need to reel it up, or if you just want to fight the fish manually, you of course have that option to do that. Okay, so it's relatively fast. 78 pounds of drag. 78 pounds of drag. Do you know what you can catch with 78 pounds of drag? You can catch a 780-pound swordfish with 78 pounds of drag. Okay, and of course, we're not sword fishing, but point I'm making, this is a state-of-the-art power assist reel, but I promise you, you're going to pay for it, $1,200, something like that. You guys sell these Seaborgs here? What's the price? The reel alone of a 12, they make an 800, they also make a 1200. $16.99. Is that what you said? $16.99. They're $17.99. All right. Anyhow, the point I'm making is it's expensive, but you get what you pay for. And you know what? Fuel's expensive, and wasting your time out there catching nothing is even more expensive, right? I mean, listen, nobody ever said fishing was affordable. right? Anybody ever tell you that? Because if they tell you that, maybe if you're bass fishing in a lake with a cane pole or something, it might be affordable. But the stuff that we're doing out here is not affordable. And the tackle that we're using is state-of-the-art tackle, and you're going to pay for it. But it's going to work, you know, and you're going to be more effective. So just keep that in mind. You know, softer tip, lighter line. You're going to be able to have a much more vertical presentation. Your rig is going to be closer or on the bottom, which is really, really important, because if that rig starts scoping up off the bottom, what are you going to catch? Nothing, okay? Let's talk about baits for golden tilefish. Very much like the gray tilefish, your ideal bait is going to be squid. However, I'm not using a little strip to entice this guy. This guy, he needs something to eat, okay? He wants something to eat. So put a big squid on the hook. Put a whole squid on the hook. Another great bait, somebody tell me another great bait. I've mentioned this in many seminars in the past. I'm not going to call it a secret bait, but another great bait for golden tilefish. Rosies, whoever's saying black belly rosefish, okay? Black belly rosefish are a primary staple. They're prey for the goldens. That's what they're eating. Go out there before I go golden tilefish, before I make my first drop. The very first thing I do is go catch a dozen rosies, okay? And I'm not catching them to eat them. I'm catching them to feed them, okay? That thing. So fish for the rosies first. On rocky bottom, that's where you're going to find those rosies. Catch a dozen of those, fillet them or butterfly them, and put that on the hook, okay? Put that on the hook. Along with squid, or you can fish, if you're fishing a 3-hook rig, put a couple of squid and rosie in the middle, or, you know, mix and match. Give them some scent, give them some flavor, give them some options. Clam, a big hunk of juicy, nasty, smelly, gnarly clam is a great bait. The only problem with clam is it comes off the hook easily. But if you can get your hands on some really nice, you know, fresh, big, juicy, gnarly clams, that's a great bait for the golden tilefish. Fresh bonita strips, fresh anything. That fish is not too picky. It really isn't. The reason, though, that squid tends to be the best is simply because it's easy for them to suck down, for them to inhale. The rig, and I don't think I mentioned this, which is really important, the hook that I'm fishing on this rig is that same VMC inline tournament circle hook in size 9.0. 9.0. So what size are we using for the gray tiles? 4.0. What size are we using for the golden tiles? 9.0. What brand hook is it? VMC. Game over. Okay, you're all going to be successful tile fishermen. Okay, right there. And these little differences make a big difference. It's a super sharp hook. It penetrates the mouth very easily, but it's a super strong hook. Super strong. When it comes to bycatch, when we're targeting the golden tilefish, the black belly rosefish is 99% of the time the only bycatch that we ever see. Okay? Other than the occasional shark that rips your rig apart. But other than that, if you get a good bite, if you get a thump, 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 guess what that is? That's Mac Daddy eating your bait right there, okay? Go into free spool. Let him eat it. Don't pull it away from him. Don't pull it away from him. Too many people make that mistake, you know, which is hard. You're drifting along. I'm right at the rail. And understand, when you are fishing for golden tilefish and you're drifting, the rod is in the rod holder. Do not let it hit the bottom and walk away and go, hey, crack open the next beer, Joe. Okay, that's not what this is about. This is actively fishing. You are right there. This is in free spool the entire time. My hand is on the line. I am waiting and feeling everything. I want to feel every bite. I want to feel that sinker. I want to have situational awareness. Where is my rig in conjunction to the bottom? Is it dragging across the bottom? Is it off the bottom? Because if it's off the bottom, what do I need to do? Feed out some line, right? Or adjust my lead. Maybe I need a little bit more lead because I know I need that rig on the bottom. If I'm not on the bottom, I'm not catching squat. That's the bottom line. So I'm constantly paying attention. When I feel that thump, I don't know if the fish has the hook in its mouth, and you know what? I don't care if he does. When I feel that thump, I want to give that fish time. I want that hook in his butthole, excuse my language. But I want him to swallow it and right down his gullet. So when I lock that up, I'm getting him. Okay, I am getting him. So in turn, let him eat it. Drop it back. Okay, put your thumb on the spool, feed out some line, count to 30. Give it a minute. He's not going anywhere. He's down there chomping on this big juicy squid that you have or whatever, the rose fish that he's like, woo, look at this great meal. And he's eating it. Then lock it up, slowly come tight, and the same thing you're going to know instantly. That fish fights. This gray tilefish, not so much. That fish fights hard. He's not going to want to come up off the bottom. The second that he realizes he has a hook in him, your rod's going to go berserk. Okay? And that first portion of the fight is the most crucial. If you lock down the drag and go into full speed, boom, what's going to happen? You're going to lose him. Okay? You're going to lose him. The reel has plenty of power. It's got too much power. Remember, it's got this much power. Okay, it really does. So the reel's going to haul it up off the bottom, but something's likely going to give. Something's going to break. You're either going to pull a hook out of its mouth, a knot may part, a swivel may open. Too many things could go wrong. Instead, slow down. You did it. You went out there. You found them. You dropped the bait down. Everything came together. The fish came along. He ate your bait. You locked it up. You hooked him. You got him. Right? Now it's just a matter of getting them from 800 feet down into my frigid, rigid cooler. Okay? That's the only thing left to do. And I'm going to enjoy that. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to slowly, slow, creep it. I'm going to creep that line with this reel, real slow, to try and get that fish up off the bottom. My drag is set. Okay, I'm not going to force that fish off the bottom. I'm going to use finesse and coerce that fish off the bottom. He's not willingly going to come off the bottom because he hugs the bottom. The bottom is security. That golden tilefish has never in its entire life not seen the bottom of the ocean. Okay, other than when he was born because their eggs float, but that's a different ballgame. Okay, he lives on the bottom. So as soon as he is being pulled off the bottom, he realizes something is very, very wrong here. Something's very wrong here. And he's going to fight for his life. You're flagged too. Okay, so in turn, just slowly creep it up off the bottom. As the fish comes up off the bottom further, you can increase the speed a little bit. But do not go into full speed on any electric reel when you're bringing up a big golden tilefish. Take your time. Enjoy the fight. I'm going to tell you, I'm like a 3-year-old girl when it comes to golden tile fishing. Okay, when that rod's bent over and thumping, I'm screaming like a little girl. Okay, I'm jumping up and down. I'm fist pumping. I'm like, I got him. Okay, I'm going crazy. Then wait till I see him. Okay, and then I really go nuts because it's that exciting to me. I found him. I fooled him. I got him. Okay. As that fish comes about halfway through the water column, it's going to bloat and it's going to start to float. So at that point, again, the fight's going to diminish. It's not going to be pumping or head shaking as much, but it's still going to twist and turn and, dive back toward the bottom. In other words, try and dig back toward the bottom. But the fight's going to ease off a little bit. Now it's just, again, finesse, gently get that fish up. Once he's up next to the boat, stick a gaff in it, game's over. Okay, you just scored. Everybody got that from beginning to end? That is how you catch a golden tilefish from beginning to end. Don't do it any other way. Finally, a couple other things I want to touch on real quick, and then we'll wrap this up and we'll give away some cool chaos stuff. When you are out there, gray tile fishing and golden tile fishing, always, always take at least 1, if not 2 spinners with a squid or a pilchard. It doesn't even have to be a pilchard. Truthfully, I prefer a squid over anything. Throw it out away from the boat, put the rod in the rod holder, and just leave it. 1 in the back, 1 in the front. What am I targeting? 50% of the time, you're going to catch dolphin. 50%, okay? You may not catch them. You'll see them, you'll get a bite, or you'll catch them, whatever it is. And if you really want to up the ante, when you have your cutting board with your squid and your bait that you're using for golden tilefish, get a box of silver sides. Okay, thaw it out, just leave it right on the top, and every now and then just throw some silver sides in the water. Sorry, you're chunking. That's what you're doing. You're chunking for the dolphin. You're creating a chum slick. Any dolphin that's within this country mile is going to swim toward the boat. You've got 2 squid that are drifting right up at the top, and you catch a nice dolphin. Would that be a nice bonus? Yeah. Dolphin and golden tilefish for dinner, right? That's great. Not going to happen every time, but if you don't do it, it's never going to happen. So you're already out there anyway. Before you drop down, throw the squids out, put them in the rod holders. You don't have to attend to them. Let Rodney the rod holder do its thing. Okay? And then, like I said, if you want to up the odds, just throw some silver sides out, create that nice chum slick. When you go up for another drift in that same area, that's okay. And you may have attracted some dolphin to that area. They'll find you as well. When we drift, when do you go up for another drift? When do you say, hey, this isn't working? Okay? Remember that unlike a lot of other species, again, we're only looking for that one bite. That bite may come in the first 15 minutes. That bite may come in the 5 hours and 15 minutes. You don't know that, because if that golden tilefish could be right out there in the middle of the street and I'm drifting right here, is it going to swim from over there to over here? No. Okay, you're not going to know. So so many different things have to come together for you to catch that fish, and you need a little lady luck, right? Everybody needs a little luck. So put in the time, put in the effort. Fish for the dolphin at the same time, because that could be a big bonus. Fish with the freshest baits that you can possibly fish with. Take your time and use finesse, even though this is deep dropping and a lot of lead and hardcore bottom fishing, it requires a level of finesse. Double check every connection, every knot, every crimp. Double check your drag. Drags have this magical ability to adjust themselves. That ever happen to anybody? Okay. Did that ever happen to anybody? Yeah. Yes, okay. They have this magical ability. You think it's at one spot, and then next thing you know, your drag is socked down tight or too loose or whatever it may be. So these are the fundamentals of fishing. I want to add one more thing. Lately, I've really, as a lot of you guys know, have been getting into slow pitch jigging and have caught a lot of tilefish slow pitch jigging. Now, I'm going to tell you that I'm on a quest to catch a golden tilefish on a slow pitch jig, which I have not. I went out on Monday, as a matter of fact, spent hours targeting golden tilefish on a jig. You know how many I caught? None. But I had a good time, okay? But I didn't catch any. But I'm going to. I'm going to keep trying, because there's no reason that they won't eat the jig. The gray tilefish will eat the jig all day long. So if you want to switch it up a little bit and do something more active, a little bit more sporty, a little bit more challenging, I recommend that you slow pitch jig for the gray tilefish. Variety of different jigs that you can use. While they sell a lot of them here, you could also get the best ones on my website, okay, at fsfgear.com, okay. While these are good, mine are better, okay. And in turn, use the correct slow pitch outfit, which you can get right off that shelf right there, and you can have a ball catching tilefish, and incredibly rewarding catching a fish on a jig versus bait. Everybody agree with me? Okay, incredibly rewarding catching fish on artificials. So you don't only have to use bait, there are other methods as well that we're just now, over the last couple of years, exploring, fine-tuning, refining, and by fishing with lighter gear, 300 and 400 gram jigs with 20-pound line. It's literally super, super thin. We can jig in 850 feet of water. Okay, right on the bottom, 850 feet of water. Now, I don't know how many of you want to reel that jig up from 850 feet, but to me, it's worth it to be able to catch that one fish on a jig. So, with that being said, remember everything that we talked about, the fundamentals, I can't stress enough. Forget everything else. If your knots aren't good, your connections aren't good, if your tackle isn't taken care of, if you're not fishing the freshest bait, what are you even doing? Anybody ever lose a fish because of a bad knot? Anybody ever lose a fish because of a bad knot? Yes, okay? Or your drag wasn't set right, or one of a million things. Of course, it's happened to all of us. So eliminate angler, failure, eliminate tackle failure from the equation, and you're going to be a more successful angler.